When a wealthy executive mocks a black janitor in front of the entire office, he has no idea who he's really talking to. But when the truth comes out, the entire room is left speechless. You won't believe how this power shift unfolds. Candace Wells was not the type to sit behind a desk, signing papers all day. As the CEO of Welltech Industries, she believed leadership wasn't about sitting in an ivory tower. It was about knowing every inch of your company, every person on the payroll, and every problem that lurked beneath the surface. And right now, there was a big problem. Whispers had reached her. Complaints. Stories about how black employees at one of her key offices were constantly overlooked, underpaid, and dismissed like background noise. Promotions barely happening. Input ignored. Some of the managers barely hid their biases, and some didn't bother at all. Candace had heard enough. So instead of calling a meeting or sending an email, she decided to see it for herself, from the ground level. A few days later, she stepped into Welltech's corporate office on the 35th floor, dressed in a janitor's uniform, a cheap blue jumpsuit, rubber gloves, and a worn-out mop slung over her shoulder. No jewelry, no power heels, no executive attitude. Just another cleaning lady, invisible to the world. She hadn't even made it past the lobby before someone spoke. "Hey, you, new girl?" A bored-looking security guard, leaning back in his chair, barely glanced up from his phone. A piece of gum popped between his teeth. "Who are you?" Candace adjusted her gloves. "Candace, new janitor." He gave her a once-over, didn't even make eye contact, and waved her through like she was a piece of office furniture. "Mop's over there. Don't leave your bucket lying around." Right. Candace took a breath and stepped into the office corridors, mentally preparing herself. She knew what was coming. She had seen the numbers. The stats didn't lie. Black employees in this branch were practically invisible, except when it was time to clean up after everyone else. But even she wasn't prepared for what happened next. The moment she stepped into the main office area, she caught the sharp gaze of Richard Carlisle. Tall, expensive suit, slicked back hair so shiny you could probably see your reflection in it. He looked exactly like the type of man who thought his watch was worth more than your entire existence. His expression twisted the second he saw her. "Oh, for crying out loud." Richard groaned loudly, pushing his chair back like she was about to spill bleach all over his Italian loafers. "You're gonna mop right now? While we're working? Do you even understand how inconvenient that is?" Candace gave him a cool smile, not saying a word. Richard blinked. "Oh, do you even speak English?" he asked, the fake concern practically dripping from his voice. Her fingers tightened around the mop handle. "Not today, not now, not like this. I need to clean Mr. Carlisle's office." Richard rolled his eyes so hard, Candace was surprised they didn't pop out of his head. "Fine, but hurry up. And don't mess with the furniture. Not like anyone's going to complain about you anyway." Oh, Candace had seen his type before. Entitled, smug, dripping with the kind of confidence that came from never being told no in his entire life. The kind of man who saw power as a right, not a responsibility. He had no idea who he was talking to, and that made it all the more satisfying. But this was just the beginning. What happened next changed everything. You don't want to miss this. Stay tuned to see how things spiral out of control. If Candace thought Richard Carlisle's attitude on the first day was bad, she had severely underestimated his talent for being an insufferable jerk. Over the next few days, it was like he had made it his personal mission to remind her of her place, or at least the place he thought she belonged. He didn't just ignore her. He didn't just look down on her. He made sure she knew exactly how little he thought of her. The coffee stunt happened on a Wednesday. Candace was walking past a conference room when she heard it. "Hey, you janitor." She turned. Richard stood in the doorway, smirking like he owned the entire building. "Get me a coffee. Black. No sugar." Candace stared at him for a second. Then with a perfectly neutral face, she said, "I'm a janitor, not a barista." Richard burst out laughing, loud, obnoxious, like she had just said the funniest thing in the world. "Oh, trust me, sweetheart. You're not much of a janitor either. This floor is still filthy. Maybe focus on doing your job before you start catching an attitude." Candace didn't flinch. But inside? Oh, she was taking notes. Later that day, she was mopping the hall, minding her own business, when Richard and a group of executives strolled past. She could feel their eyes on her, waiting for the moment to strike. And then, loud enough for the whole floor to hear, Richard let it fly. Honestly, I almost feel bad for her. Candace kept mopping. Don't know. Can you imagine ending up like that, cleaning floors at this age? She probably didn't even finish high school. He paused for effect. Then, grinning, he added, although, let's be real, some people are just born for this kind of work. Laughter, not from everyone, but enough. Candace gripped her mop tighter. She had seen this before, the casual cruelty, the confidence that no one would challenge it, the smug certainty that the people in the room would either agree or stay silent. And sure enough, the other executives just awkwardly chuckled, eyes darting away like they didn't hear anything. Spineless, every single one of them. Candace exhaled slowly. Not yet, not now, but soon. That evening, the entire office gathered for a major announcement. The CEO was making an appearance. Everyone had heard the rumors. A huge leadership change was coming. A new head of the company was about to be revealed. Richard stood in the front row, arms crossed, looking bored out of his mind. This company needs new leadership, that's for sure, he muttered, loud enough for others to hear. Hopefully someone who actually knows what they're doing. A few people laughed nervously, and then a voice echoed through the room. How interesting. A sharp silence fell over the crowd. Every head turned. And there, stepping onto the stage, was Candace Wells. But this time, she wasn't wearing a janitor's uniform. She wasn't holding a mop. She was in a sleek black power suit, heels clicking against the floor like the ticking of a countdown. And the look on her face, unshakable, unapologetic, unstoppable. Richard went pale. Everything was about to change. The room went dead silent. You could hear a pin drop. Richard Carlyle stood there, his smirk frozen midair, his whole body locked in disbelief. His brain refused to process what his eyes were seeing, because there, on stage, standing tall, calm, and completely in control, was Candace Wells. Not a janitor, not some nameless employee, but the CEO of Welltech Industries. And he had spent the past 2 weeks treating her like dirt. Candace let the silence stretch, let it sink in, let them all feel the weight of the moment before she spoke. Allow me to introduce myself. Her voice was steady, clear, and razor sharp. Candace Wells, CEO of Welltech Industries. The gasps hit all at once. Then came the whispers, rushed, hushed voices buzzing through the crowd like wildfire. Richard visibly swallowed, his face going from its usual smugness to something between panic and nausea. He took a step back, as if he could physically distance himself from the disaster unraveling in real time. What? He stammered. Candace turned her gaze from him to the entire audience, her expression unreadable, her presence commanding the entire room. For the past few weeks, I've been working in this office, undercover, to see what really happens when no one's watching. And you know what I found? A pause. She looked directly at Richard. Bias, arrogance, systematic discrimination. You could almost feel the temperature drop. Richard opened his mouth. No words came out. Candace didn't need him to speak. Instead, she pulled her phone out of her pocket and, with one tap, the massive screen behind her lit up. Surveillance footage, audio recordings, conversations, laughter, mockery. Every smug, offhand comment, every casual insult, every blatant moment of bias, caught in stunning high definition. Richard's own voice played across the speakers. So, she probably didn't even finish high school. Some people are just born for this kind of work. Who's she going to complain to? Her mop? The room shifted. The quiet wasn't just silence anymore. It was heavy, suffocating. Richard stumbled back, his face turning from pale to ashen gray. I didn't mean... Candace tilted her head. You didn't mean for me to hear it? She folded her arms. Or you didn't mean to get caught? Richard was cornered, and everyone in the room knew it. She let the moment sit, let the weight of his own words crush him. Then, in a voice cool as steel, she said, "You're fired." Richard's head snapped up so fast, you'd think someone slapped him. You, you can't do that." Candace smiled. "I can, and I just did." Before he could even sputter out another excuse, the doors at the back of the room swung open. 2 security guards stepped in. "Night. Leave your badge and walk out the door." Richard spun around, looking at his colleagues for help, support, anything, but all he found were averted gazes and stiff, uncomfortable silence. He had humiliated himself, and no one wanted to go down with him. His mouth opened, nothing came out. Finally, with no options left, he yanked off his executive ID badge, threw it onto the floor, and stormed out. The moment he disappeared, the room erupted into applause. Candace let it roll over her for a moment, then raised a hand for quiet. "This office is going to change. Starting now, no more bias, no more favoritism, no more toxic leadership. If you're here to do the work, if you respect your colleagues, if you believe in this company's future, you have a place here. If not, the door's right there." The employees stood a little taller. The executives looked a little nervous. And somewhere, deep inside, Candace knew this was just one battle in a much bigger war. Because for every Richard Carlyle that got exposed, there were dozens more still hiding in plain sight.